Beloved Creator of all that is, in gratitude we know the power of the I am. I am, therefore I am. There is no one among us who can deny the power of that eternal presence when spirit and consciousness combine. I am. I am here to be in my joy. I am here to create. I am here in grateful duty through my actions to preserve that which the Almighty has given to the best of my worldly ability. I am for that I am, powerfully, yet humbly at your service. Let it be so, and so it is.
Thank you,
Thank
Charlie.
you, Charlie.
My pleasure.
Hello, my name's Ron Vroman. I'm the old white man talking head for the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. Opinion is which came first, the chicken or the egg? That's opinion. The answer to what exactly happens after death? That depends. The high-level intel, the endorsement by the military that was given to Jim Wright allegedly, then he lost it allegedly. If you have a secret, legitimate, authentic intel at Destry's level, it's a saga. I call bullshit. The tips from the elevator operator are not going to make Rothschilds money. How many of the several states of the United States of America were there in 1860? Not opinion, it's fact. When martial law was enacted, not opinion, are states, commonwealths, and territories found on the timeline? Not opinion. Are counties part of the constitutional Republican form of government? Not opinion. Where exactly do I find that evidence? You make a claim. Nobody rebuts it. The claim stands. You make a claim. I rebut your claim. Your claim does not stand until you overcome the rebuttal with supporting evidence. When you make a claim you cannot support, you lose. You're wrong. Therefore, Anna, Straight, NLA, T. Rowe, Richard Mack, CSPOA, Jim Wright, Stuart Rhodes, the Republic, whatever failed attempts from the past, they have nothing until they complete one state to the point that they equal Article 1, Section 1 of Oregon's Constitution. Full faith and credit, it's available on every state. As in unrebutted provisional government, such as the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly. And no fee to you. Jesus may save the day or require us to do whatever strict restrictions were attached. I remember from my Bible studies that God attached lots of restrictions on lots of things, especially when he was sending his tribe to war. Run around, holler, and break pitchers. That's what he chose. It worked. So maybe your God's going to save you and save a lot and do, maybe. But maybe your God will pass out restrictions, such as do it yourself. That could be. God could say, do it yourself while I watch. And you're not ready because you expected God to come down and save you. Donald John Trump is not going to save us. The military is on the side of the Lieber Code, and they have been since it was passed in Executive Order 100. Forget it. We are the ones with the unalienable rights granted by our Creator in a de jure form of government. Oh, creamy. We must do it ourselves. Nobody can do it for you, and we cannot do it alone. It fails at the first defect. When the defect is false, it cannot be corrected. When the defect is true, then it can be corrected. If you just said it a little wrong, correct it. If it's false, it can't be corrected. Judicial Act 1789, Section 32. Some say there are only 33 states within the United States of America's Confederation and Perpetual Union constitutionally when South Carolina seceded. Then there was 32. That break in the provenance of our government in the de jure original jurisdiction has yet to be fixed. It is de facto and thus illegal or illegitimate until corrected. Possession by a pirate does not change ownership. The military, most likely the army, is the pirate. There really is an active conspiracy. The industrial, military, judicial, legislative, executive, banker, bar, royalist, Nazi, communist, Muslim, Catholic, Khazarian Mafia, United Nations. It's a conspiracy complex. Of course, minus the Georgia Guidestones now. And I yield. This is a tutorial to those that got it, to those that understand what's going on. They have a grasp of the situation. They know things are not right and they're looking for a way to fix it. We found it. We're the Oregon Statewide Jural Assembly, and we actually found a way that gets the job done. There may be others, but this one works. We worked on it for 4.5 years to get it right, and it's right. And we can give it to you, and you can do all of it in 21 days. Paperwork. You've heard the expression, the job's not finished until the paperwork's done. Well, this job starts when the paperwork's done. You have to get all the paperwork done, complete, correct, so that your original jurisdiction, who you are as a man or a woman on the land and soil, with your progeny, your offspring, without ruler and without subjects. That's who you are. That's original jurisdiction. That's as close as you can get to law, natural law, God's law, how it comes together. And that's in the first paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. Natural law and God's law, and that's who we are. If you don't have God, if you don't have a creator, if you don't have the Great Spirit, my grandfather called it Mother Nature, how things work. If you don't have that, then you don't have unalienable rights. You're not one of us. You're a 14th Amendment citizen. You're a U.S. citizen. The United States, Washington District of Columbia. That's who you are. If you have God, if you have a supreme being, then you have unalienable rights. And they're guaranteed by our Constitution. And it's the United States of America's Constitution. And what we have to do in our journey to get to original jurisdiction with our state, commonwealth, or territory, what we have to do is to bring that fictitious entity that we are a party to by contract, we have to bring that to original jurisdiction. Only people can do that. Persons, in the legal sense, don't have the ability or authority to do that. Me and you, people, body, mind, spirit, flesh, blood, and soul. That's who can do original jurisdiction. Everybody else has to do something else in some form of de facto color of law. Whatever they want to do is not our issue. We're not party to that. If they want to do admiralty law and discuss millions of gallons or barrels of whatever and hundreds of millions of bushels of whatever and transporting it all around the world and free alongside port and free on board and all of that, not what we're discussing. We're not discussing equity either. We're talking about original jurisdiction and a tutorial on how to get there. The first thing that you have to do is you have to assemble. I don't care how many you get to assemble with you, but you got to have at least 5. And it's okay if there's lots of other assemblies doing whatever they're doing. The assembly you're in is a Jural assembly, and it has one function: returning to a constitutional Republican form of law this year, and we're going to do it in Philadelphia, on Philadelphia. So what happens is all the paperwork has to be done at one time, and it's not that hard. It took us 4.5 years to get our paperwork done. We got it done. It took a long time, and we made lots of mistakes, and we did things over, and we got it right. The reason we know we got it right is nobody has rebutted what we said. Anna says, you don't have to do that. We already did it. But she doesn't rebut what we're saying. Nobody rebuts what we're saying. And we rebut everybody else. And they have no answer. If you make a claim, whatever it is, you make a claim, there are 50 states. Now, if I acquiesce to that, then I agree that you have 50 states, and I have those same 50 states because I acquiesced. I don't acquiesce to 50 states. Therefore, whomever made the claim that there are 50 states now has a rebuttal. Therefore, the one that made the claim must provide supporting evidence. And evidence is clear. You can look it up, read a definition. What is evidence? And if it's not evidence, then you have not responded to the rebuttal with supporting evidence. You've just said drivel. Good drivel. Nice, well written, makes you feel good when you read it. Hopium, but it's not evidence. There is no evidence available that there are 50 states in the Confederation and Perpetual Union where original jurisdiction is. There just isn't. So 50 states fails. Can't make the grade. There is no supporting evidence. Now let's take 33 states. There is plenty of evidence for 33 states. We start out with the 13 states, and those 13 states got together and stole 13 territories, 13 colonies, whatever they were named, from the King of England, the most powerful monarch in the world. They did it. They accomplished it on the land, but they didn't get the job done on the water. The General Cornwallis, that George beat, and he acquiesced and he abandoned the field and he returned to England, defeated on the land. However, every time we send a ship out to sea for commerce or whatever other reason, the Brits would take it, impress our men, make them into the British Navy, no language barrier, and enslave them. Nothing we could do about it. We weren't big enough or strong enough, didn't have enough wherewithal to put a navy on the ocean that would protect our interests. So they made a treaty with the king. But it ensured that we had the groundwork to continue on with what we'd won on the land. And things got better on the sea. So they started the Continental Congress in Philadelphia. They did a lot of work. They made the Declaration of Independence. They did a lot of things before they formed a confederation and perpetual union, which took the provenance, the lawful jurisdiction, from those that had declared their independence in the document and fought the war and done the best they could. They passed that on to, had a little technical difficulty there. So the fix was in and the military was in charge. And I think it's been that way ever since. How is it that the budget for the United States military is bigger than the budget for the next 5 countries or something? It's just It's ridiculous. And I was in that industry for quite a while, building Titan I missile sites for the Air Force. But I digress. So we had benevolent form of martial law, pretty good, as long as the military got to fight a war every once in a while and they got to buy new toys and make new airplanes and all that kind of stuff. And when I was in 40 plus, a guy told me, I says, aren't you worried about getting a job? He said, nah. He says, every colonel and above that retires from the military is guaranteed a really good job in the defense industry. Isn't that interesting? He was there learning about getting a job because he had only been in the military his whole life. And he was positive that he was going to get a really good job in the defense industry because he was a retired colonel. And I'll bet it's true. Part of the industrial military complex that has been joined by a whole bunch since then. So now all of the states, 33 of them, have statehood documents. And a statehood document would be the two constitutions, the United States of America's Constitution and the state's constitution. Those two constitutions are the contract. The enumerated responsibilities of the United States of Washington District of Columbia are written clear what they're supposed to do. But when they flipped out of de jure into de facto and they got martial law, now they do what they want to do and play pretend that it's constitutional. And you see these guys on YouTube, oh, somebody else is passing another law on the Second Amendment. We have to fight that. It's stupid. Absolutely stupid. You don't fight that. You fight the issue, and the issue is martial law. That's where the fight is. The fight isn't about you carrying a handgun or whether or not there's red flag, or all of those are infringements. It's not to be dealt with that way. We have to get back to original jurisdiction. So now, here's all these contracts. Oregon's, for example, which is our state constitution and the United States of America's constitution, and probably a letter from somebody and a document with red ribbons and
Ex parte Milligan, 71 U.S. 4 Wall 2, 1866, was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court that ruled the application of military tribunals to citizens when civilian courts are still operating as unconstitutional. In this particular case, the court was unwilling to give President Abraham Lincoln's administration the power of military commission jurisdiction, part of the administration's controversial plan to deal with Union dissenters during the American Civil War. Justice David Davis, who delivered the majority opinion, stated that martial rule can never exist when the courts are open, and confined martial law to areas of military operations where war really prevails, and when it was a necessity to provide a substitute for a civil authority that had been overthrown. Chief Justice Salmon P. Chase and 3 associate justices filed a separate opinion concurring with the majority in the judgment, but asserted that Congress had the power to authorize a military commission, although it had not done so in Milligan's case. The landmark case stemmed from a trial by a military commission of Lambden P. Milligan, for whom the case is named, Stephen Horsey, William A. Bowles, and Andrew Humphreys that convened at Indianapolis on October 21, 1864. The charges against the men included, among others, conspiracy against the U.S. government, offering aid and comfort to the Confederates, and inciting rebellion. On December 10, 1864, Milligan, Bowles, and Horsey were found guilty on all charges and sentenced to hang. Humphreys was found guilty and sentenced to hard labor for the remainder of the war. The sentence for Humphreys was later modified, allowing his release. President Andrew Johnson commuted the sentences for Milligan, Bowles, and Horsey to life imprisonment. On May 10, 1865, Milligan's legal counsel filed a petition in the Circuit Court of the United States for the District of Indiana at Indianapolis for a writ of habeas corpus, which called for a justification of Milligan's arrest. A similar petition was filed on behalf of Bowles and Horsey. The two judges who reviewed Milligan's petition disagreed about the issue of whether the U.S. Constitution prohibited civilians from being tried by a military commission and passed the case to the U.S. Supreme Court. The case was argued before the court on March 5th and March 13th, 1866. Its decision was handed down on April 3rd, 1866. Prepared by Francis Lieber, promulgated as General Orders No. 100 by President Lincoln, 24th of April, 1863. Instructions for the Government of Armies of the United States in the Field, prepared by Francis Lieber, LLD, originally issued as General Orders No. 100, Adjutant General's Office, 1863, Washington, 1898, Government Printing Office. Article 1, Section 1 of Oregon's Constitution, Natural Rights Inherent in People. We declare that all men, when they form a social compact, are equal in right, that all power is inherent in the people, and all free governments are founded on their authority and instituted for their peace, safety, and happiness, and they have at all times a right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they may think proper. This is taken from oregonlaws.org.
They do not want to let go of this. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
And then the bullets started flying. Then he jumps out of the car. And he's got both his hands up.
And he got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, to shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead. With his hands in the air, and I saw it. I swear to God. He was just walking with his hands in the air. And they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.